too. That was unbelievable.
Signal.
Yo,
Nice.
yo,
Oh
clip that shit, boy. Alex, you dead? Okay, let's push up a little bit. Let's these are big staggers here. Come on. Shield. Doom one. First absolute.
Nice. Oh, I got field.
Let's go!
We have a lot of ults.
I'm trying to stay alive right now. That Hanzo can die. Good job. What the fuck is this? There you go. Wow. Oh my god. That's a double damage boost. That shit is crazy. Tracer's is non-existent. That was fucking sweet. Wow, clip it, boys. Yo, what is good, everybody, and welcome back to another settings video. The previous one did absolutely amazing, upwards of 4,000 views, over 100 likes. So for that, thank you very much. The positive feedback in the comments was beyond anything that I've ever seen on my YouTube channel before. However, there were a couple of people who were interested in seeing my hero specific settings, like Ashe, since I am, after all, an Ashe one trick, a 4,500 Ashe one trick, top 10 player on PS4. So I just thought I'd do my part in explaining why I don't have any overrides for Ashe and why I think the default settings make a lot of sense and why you don't necessarily need to change anything, because that is the whole premise behind the video. Remember, as a disclaimer, these settings will not necessarily help you climb. So we're going to work on it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to play a couple of clips, or at least I have played a couple of clips in the beginning of the video. So let me know what you think. Stick around. We're going to hop right into it in 3, 2, 1. Bang! Alright, let's hop right into it. So, the one thing that I did want to bring up from the last video, a lot of people in the comments were not fully in agreement with my settings, strictly because they believe you should bump up your sensitivity, reduce your aim assist, and make sure that you're hitting those flick shots on the Widow or on another sniper in a double shield meta. But that's the complete opposite. What I like to do, lower your sensitivity, increase your aim assist window size, and land those dynamites. You're not going to be hitting those flick headshots through double shield, and it's very likely that the Sigma is going to be shielding their sniper, so you won't even be able to find a sight line. The one thing that I find most important in this current meta, landing those dynamites, getting 20+% on your ultimate every single dynamite, focusing on hitting those dynamite pulls and even dynamite pile drives. It's just so important that you get Bob every 1 to 2 fights. That way, your team always has the advantage on point, any point contest, since it is a lot of point contests with a Mei on the other team most of the time. I recommend just landing those shots on the Orisa. You do not need high sensitivity to land consecutive headshots on an Orisa, since her headshot hitbox is so high. I'll show you a little bit more in depth what I'm running. Remember, my settings have not changed since the release of Ashe, and there's no reason to. Ashe has not had any changes in any recent patches. Her dynamite has not been changed once. But again, you'll notice that I do not have any overrides for Ashe. There's no star next to it, and that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you right now. But we'll switch to it. A lot of people in my comments were asking for it. So just like in the first video, I have a 5450 sensitivity. It's about medium range, not all that far off from default. And that's strictly because I just don't feel the need to hit those flick shots like most people prioritize. I can still do it, don't get me wrong, but it does require a level of prediction. You have to predict where a Widow might be setting up. You have to predict where a Hanzo might be trying to get high ground, or even a Doomfist might be diving from the high ground. You hit him up with your coach gun. Bow, you can do it no problem. It just depends where you set up your sight line, where you think they're going to be approaching you from, where you think they're going to be peeking you from. Don't sit there and try to hit the inevitable. You just have to be a step ahead of the enemy team at all times. Let's get into advanced, and that's just what I was talking about. High aim assist is super important. Since Dynamite does have aim assist on it, it only makes sense to keep it that way. 100 across the board. Legacy mode, I have no idea what that does. Aim assist ease in. Again, these are all defaults, so I don't necessarily know what most people run. If you do have different Ashe settings, please let me know in the comments. Okay, I'm curious. But aim assist ease in 50, aim smoothing 100, aim assist or aim ease in 0. Again, I don't know exactly what any of these do, but I just feel like high aim assist is so important, and not forcing anything too crazy. Don't listen to some of these players that tell you that you need to force Also, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, I'm kind of... And a lot of these are just off. Make sure your vibration is off. I did talk about this in the last video. I think that vibration does kind of mess with your hand-eye coordination. Throws you off entirely. Make sure that is off. And for any of you, let me know in the comments. Do you use vibration? I've talked about it on my stream before, and it seems like the chat is indifferent. 50-50 split. It's really weird. But... Switch movement, please don't do that. Legacy sticks, I have no idea. And dual zone. Now, I talked a lot about this in the last video, but I just feel as though linear ramp and exponential ramp could be a pain in the ass, since you're not really going to be focusing on turning, you're not going to be turning and burning as an Ashe player. You're going to be sitting on the high ground, focusing on one single direction. And the reality is, if nobody's really running Tracer or Genji all that much, flankers are not nearly as popular as they used to be. Maybe, just maybe, if somebody's crab walking behind you, like a McCree, crab walking to go fan the hammer you. I don't know. That could be just situation specific, but for the most part, I think dual zone is very useful, and I guess there's no specific reason for that. Just try to keep it basic. Don't overcomplicate your settings, please. That's the one thing that I like to stress. Okay, my analog drift completely just messed up literally all of my settings, so I do apologize for that. That's kind of a pain in the arse, but there you go. Okay, thankfully I can see the star whenever it's back to normal. But as for the dot, the one thing that I do like to mention, and I've talked about this on stream to newer viewers and lower ranked players, I like the cyan color strictly because most maps don't match it. The only map that cyan is a problem on is Gibraltar and the sun glare on first point. But other than that, it contrasts really well in most maps. I've seen a lot of people run green, but it does disturb the retina. I have no idea. I'm not an ophthalmologist. I think that's a word. But like, it just works for me, and maybe it works for you. So give it a look. It's not complicated. You're not looking at too much. It's not covering too much of your screen. You can hit easy headshots on anybody, even like a tracer who's just as small. I feel like sometimes with larger crosshairs, it might cover the head, and you don't necessarily know where that shot's gonna land. But the dot, you know exactly where the hit scan might be able to be most effective. But I guess dot just works for me, and maybe it works for you as well. Allied health bars. Some people in my comments in the last video told me to turn it on for more comms, but I just feel like as it stands, there's not enough comms, and that might just be the least of our worries. Now, here, so relative aim sensitivity while zoom. This is pretty interesting. Now, again, you're not really hitting those turn and burns. What I usually like to do is I unscope, since obviously when you're scoped in, it is slower than your normal sensitivity. I unscope, turn, quick scope. I don't like to sit in tunnel vision. Obviously, you lose a lot, of sight lines by doing so, and you don't know if somebody's going to be from your left or your right. It's kind of like a black spot or a blind spot. And so I recommend keeping it at 60. Don't change it all too much. And it works for me. Recoil, recovery, aim compensation on. Obviously, the more help, the better. I wouldn't necessarily change it. Toggle zoom off. Yeah, that's never ever good. I wouldn't do that either. And then I guess like some people remap their crouch, or they remap it to their L3. That way there, if ever they're in a 1v1 with the Widow, it's a little bit easier to evade those one-shot headshots. But personally, I have no problem in switching. I don't think Overwatch is one of those games where you need to strafe as much as, for example, Call of Duty. And I did talk about my Call of Duty settings in the last video, since most of them kind of transitioned into Overwatch. But none of the buttons have changed. It's all default. Remember that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with my sensitivity? Do you agree with my settings in general? Is there anything that you think I should change to improve my gameplay? Remember, I have hit 4,500 on 2 accounts. It's not a miracle. You can make anything happen as long as you get used to it. The one thing that I like to do is keep my settings the same for every hero, for the sole fact of getting used to it and being able to transition between heroes without actually having to change my sensitivity. And another thing is kind of just ease of, wait, what do you call it? I guess ease of changing accounts. Like, you don't necessarily need to just switch between your you don't need to like copy your Ashe settings on multiple accounts if you ever do want to make Smurf accounts, which some people do. So let me know if there's anything that you would comment on, if there's anything that you think I should change differently. And without further ado, make sure you leave a like and a comment on the video. Make sure you subscribe too, so you get notified whenever I do upload a video. And thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video on Monday. See you then.